All right, we're back in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 with our world tour. We're flying over Freeport, Bahamas. Right now, there's the airport for Freeport. We just flew across the south side of Grand Bahama Island. We're going to fly back along the north coast. And continuing on, we've got 41% fuel left. Let's see where we can probably make it to today. We'll probably have to land somewhere on Great Abaco or Abaco. I don't know how you say that name, but not Grand Bahama, but the island just to the east of it, Great Abaco. Maybe at Leonard M. Thompson International Airport. We'll see, but we're going to fly along the north coast of Grand Bahama here, and then on to Grand Abaco, eventually landing somewhere there. After that, next week, we will continue flying down the Caribbean islands, the Bahamas, and then into Turks and Caicos. Probably down onto the Dominican Republic, maybe a bit of Haiti, probably Dominican Republic, onto Puerto Rico, St. Croix, the British Virgin Islands, Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Bart's, St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda. All that eventually, that's down the road. But for now, let's go back to the podcast we're listening to. Again, this is House of R with Mallory Rubin and Joanna Robinson. They're talking about the Stranger Things Season 5, Episodes 5 and 6 that just came out on Christmas Day. It's a great podcast if you like kind of nerdy TV shows like I do. They are going to have this podcast on Episodes 5 and 6. They have a separate podcast on Episode 7. And then they will have another podcast on the final episode that comes out on New Year's. It's either New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. But let's get back to our podcast and finish our flight here on Saturday, December 27th.
This was like, again, gorgeously written and performed, so tender and so honest about all relationships, but I think especially young relationships. I mean, people are always, I don't think people ever stop changing. I think people become set in their ways, but I don't think people ever lose the capacity to change. But when you're young, you change all the time. And like this idea that the love that you carry for someone who you've been through so much with can be so deeply rooted, but also the way that like the lies or the moments of withholding can really build and compound over time and feel like the rocks that Max and Holly can't pull down. It's like they're too big to see your way past at some point until you remind yourself that they aren't. And like the idea that, you know, the very things that bind you, I think this most of all, like the idea that the things that bind you to somebody can, if you are honest with yourself, feel like shackles sometimes. That is like a really raw, true way to acknowledge what it's like to like love a person deeply, I think.
And I think I love that. And I think, again, we love talking about the way in which this show is so good at putting it. We've maybe had a conversation like this with someone, you know, that we care about in our lives, but we've never had it while reality is melting around us because we shot a ball of exotic matter and like everything is turned into a Salvador Dali painting or whatever. But this idea that like the way in which this particular substance, the way in which they've sort of decided to demonstrate this reality melting thing is like glue, I think is just like the perfect metaphor for like this thing that bound them together, but then can just trap you, you know, and you can wind up like those soldiers just sort of like frozen, you know, in a scream of horror sort of situation. So I love that. It was absolutely beautiful. The stark white, the blue, the score.
That's gorgeous. Incredible point about the, first of all, excellent Dali comp, and I love the glue point because like what is it like to feel stuck, and that you can feel that but also love someone, and that those things can be true at the same time. I think also this is a really, really deft portrait of jealousy. I think like you want distance, but also you want to be chosen.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
you don't want the person you care about to want somebody else more than they want you, even if you're like, I love what's like the Emerson thing when Jonathan was like, I felt like I was doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Like, for doing the thing that was right for him. Like, that's just all so good. And the idea that, like, you can acknowledge that and know that, and there's a logic to it and a rationality, and still it's too scary to think about being without that person.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm really with you on what you said earlier. Like, I've loved all the ship war stuff and talking about Nancy Jonathan and Nancy Steve, and like, I love both Steve and Jonathan in different ways, but I was surprised, I'll say, by how I was like nodding my head when Nancy's like, it's not about Steve at all. Like, that's not necessarily, I wouldn't have predicted it ending that way in terms of that aspect of the love triangle, but that felt so right to me.
Yeah, I agree.
And if I'm like owning this a little bit, I think especially, like, I talk about Steve and Jonathan way more than I talk about Nancy, and I'm frankly just way more invested in both of them as characters. True. And this was a really great scene, I mean, for their relationship, for Nancy and Jonathan, but for Nancy to be like, I'm really young and I don't know what I want. And like, I was hoping I would have the time to figure that out.
Yeah,
so just loved it for everyone.
I think especially because, and we talked about this a lot. We talked about season 4 and the tenuous sort of like Robin and Nancy friendship, of like how disappointed I've been that like Nancy's identity is just so often like, who is Nancy dating? You know what I mean? We get a few moments like Nancy and Karen in the kitchen, that scene we really, really loved. I would love, even though, I don't know, older sister, younger brother, the ages that they are, but like more Nancy Mike stuff. Yeah. More Nancy Holly stuff, you know, like what is Nancy's life outside of who is she dating at this given moment? Nancy is as head of the radio station, you know what I mean? Like, and so, yeah, I agree with you that giving her this moment of just sort of like, yeah, actually, who am I? Yeah. I have been defining myself by like who I'm dating, and I would, and like her perfectionism as you know, newspaper editor, and like all these other things like that, like, you know, but yeah, who am I? That's a great point. It's sort of like taking away in which I think they've let the character down a little bit and making it the text of the character. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Really smart.
Just all we can hope for when you have this many years to make a show, you know?
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want? We already talked about sort of like the Dustin Steve reconciliation moment, but there's Gaten is, I just think,
wonderful.
Really talented.
It's great.
Obviously, always. But is there anything else you want to say about this moment that, I know it really got to you? Anything you want to say about that?
Watching Dustin just sob and like
clutch at him.
Like fold himself into Steve and just say, you can't die because I can't deal with it again. Don't let it happen again. Please don't let it happen again. Not you. And so what I love about it is it's a great way to like basically say, after all of this bickering and the shadow and specter of Eddie looming large and Dustin and Steve's relationship, it's like all of that is here. It's like, can't let it happen again, because the pain I feel over losing Eddie is real, and it's still here, and it's informing my terror of losing someone else. But then the not you, it's like, what a beautiful way to remind Steve of what he means to Dustin, and to remind all of us of what they've meant to each other. So just really raw and rewarding, and like, I think a big release for Dustin, who has been carrying a lot and maybe not being invited by the people around him to share that with them or process it the way he needs to, but also like not totally knowing how to share it and process it with them. So it just really, it really got me, and I'm eager to see like what else awaits for the two of them the rest of the way here. Also, in a stretch where, as you've rightly noted, everyone is wrong a lot, including Dustin. He was definitely right about that ladder, because it fell through mere moments after Steve put it there, and down Steve Arrington
20 stories, like so far down,
exploded on the floor that he finally settled on. So there you go.
All right. Speaking of sciencey stuff,
oh my God,
here comes Mr. Clark, nerd king of Hawkins.
This is the best.
Did we not raise this when we talked about Mr. Clark last time? The fact that, like, you know, we saw him before dating a lady. Like, what's going on with Mr. Clark's social life, his love life? And here he is. He's fucking the librarian, and it's great.
This is amazing to me. I love that, like, there may not be enough time for really meaningful, important conversations and moments and a very necessary workshopping of ideas and planning. But there is time to show us one more time and remind us one more time that Mr. Clark is Chief Stickman in Hawkins. Like,
honestly, I had it written down in my notes. Is Mallory going to say Stickman?
I know you hate it when I say Stickman.
No, in this case, I think it is appropriate. Okay.
It's just the best when he's also this is like a real, like, we got rewarded. Like, we get the moment with Mr. Clark, you know, we'd seen him like, oh, you're over here, you're watching the thing. I'm telling you how they did the, like, effects and everything. But we also got another classic Murray can't help but make people uncomfortable. And he's like, you get too loud in the sack, she shushed ya.
Yeah.
Great stuff. You know, she calls him Shookums, he calls her Sugar Lump, and it's very clear. Like, I think he knows how to find her Sugar Lump, you know? Mr. Clark, getting it done!
You're a very special person.
Oh, God.
I'll take Stickman over Sugar Lump as a euphemism for the clit any day of the week. Children, I hope you're enjoying this holiday special podcast from us. Anyway, I love Erica, Murray, and Mr. Clark as like a triangulation of personalities.
We're lucky to be alive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Matt, Ross, thank you. I love that Erica gets right to the point. She's like, I know it's 5 a.m., blah, blah. You know, and Murray's like, yeah, she already said it. Like, she said that right off the bat. Let's go. Dustin's in danger. So more to come from Mr. Clark, but this is our little reward for
Erica never misses, as usual.
Absolutely. I can't spell America without Erica. Okay, listen. Holly and Max now crawl through Henry's memories.
Yes.
Here's the first of many problems I have with this hospital sequence that is going to round out the end of this episode. The implication when Henry comes to the mouth of the cave and he's like threatening Max and Holly, and he's like, Holly, I'm going to start torturing the physical body of your friend here. And if you don't want to see her get hurt, come on back to me, right?
Yeah.
The implication being, and as coupled with what he does with Will in the library Mind Palace, that VH1 up to this point did not know where Max's body is and has now forcibly extracted that information out of Will's head. And this is insane to me. That the location of Max's body is somehow a secret. She's in a public hospital. And maybe this explains why her mother has never visited her, because maybe they just didn't tell her mom that she's there. But these children are just traipsing in and out of this. She's not in Hopper's unplottable cabin. She's in the public hospital. And Vecna has to extract. I guess now we understand. Now I understand why Will had to like go visit Max earlier this season, because I was like, this is so weird. These characters like have no relationship whatsoever. But he had to extract this information. Now he's like, at last, I know where your body is. Like, are you with me bumping on this? I thought this was absolutely bonkers.
I don't know how, I can't wrap my mind around this at all.
Henry is actively stalking a number of children in Hawkins. He's not been like just Vecna licking his wounds this whole time. He's been grooming multiple 9 and 10-year-old children. He's in boots on the ground in Hawkins. There's no way he wouldn't know where Max is.
This does not make any sense. It's also like, you know, like the bronze in Sunnydale equivalent. Like, there's not that much in Hawkins. There aren't that many places to check.
Right.
You know, and like he's pursuing Max in the Memory Mind Palace, so he knows Max is not dead.
The fox is here.
Yeah, like her consciousness is present in this prison in Camazotz. So like, there's not an explanation that's like, oh shit, he didn't know that Max was out there. So the only question is like, how could he not find her? And the absolute only thing, I would love to hear from the Bad Babies if we've missed something obvious or if people have theories. The only thing I can think of, because I also thought this was inexplicable and frankly, like, honestly, like, pretty lame here at the end. This is just pretty lame for, like, a major plot development to hinge on something that's, like, that's just doesn't seem reasonable. Yeah. The only thing I can think of is that because of what happened with 11 and Max in the, like, maybe resurrection, she's like shielded in some way that we don't know about yet. That is the only thing I can come up with.
I needed them to have, like, said that somehow. I needed someone at some point to say 11 or some indication. I'm not sure that 11 has, like, yet copped to the fact that she, like, resurrected Max, because she wasn't copping to that at the end of the season 4. So, like, and that's still just lurking out there, this idea that 11 can, like, resurrect people. So that's interesting. But, like, I don't know. I found this stunningly clumsy.
Very, very, very strange.
Really bad.
I'm with you completely. Very strange.
And that being said, Holly and Max have this great conversation in the cave where Holly's like, you know, don't just, you know, you got a theory. Give me your theories. Okay, did you search every inch of that? That's a no. Let's go. Like, great stuff from Holly. Unfortunately, the thing that everything with the spyglass reminded me of was the Sith Wayfinder from Rise of Skywalker. Did you have the same moment, and did you also go, why, at home when this happened?
Of course you know it before even asking me that the answer is yes. First thing I wrote in my notes was just Rise of Skywalker PTSD. And honestly, like, I think that the aligning of the shape of the spyglass cap to the cave mouth so that you backtrack and fall into the mine shaft was, like, kind of fun.
Yeah.
But I mean this, like, not hyperbolically and really sincerely, like, Rise of Skywalker is too recent as a thing that people actively despise and mock to do something that's going to remind people of Rise of Skywalker. Just don't.
I really agree. I think the setup with the cap on the spyglass was really well done.
Yes,
where, like, Holly kept forgetting to take it off. Like, I thought that was done. Well done. When you rewatch it, when she and Max are sitting there, like, theorizing, they're, like, sort of perfectly framed in the M of the cave mouth as they're, like, looking out. Like, there's so much of it that's fun and well done, and X marks the spot, M marks the spot, like, all of that Indiana Jones shit, really, really fun.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I was thinking of the
same. I just don't want to be thinking about Rise of Skywalker. Sorry, I don't. Yeah.
Okay, we fall down the abandoned mine shaft.
Yes.
We see this guy here. We will talk about this a little bit more in stage script reader corner at the end of the episode. And but we talked about this a little bit, but what do you want to say about what we see here?
So we see first we kind of hear some, like, whimpers.
It's not great. Yeah.
Not great. There's some whimpering, not good. And then we see a man injured against a
lab coat.
Yes, a lab coat. So we're like, okay, a scientist, right? This is the visual language of the world, but also the show. So we're like clocking that and meant to. And he is holding a briefcase that we will then, crucially, we and Holly will see Henry pick up, unlatch. We see him unlatch it and open it, and, like, a kind of like a cold, like something's being kept in cold storage fog comes out. But then we don't see in full what's in it here.
The embryos from Jurassic Park?
Maybe the duffers from Jurassic Park. We'll get to that soon. But, you know, clearly we are teeing something up here for more information to come about what Henry finds in there. So we're enticed on that front. What's in the box? We're enticed on that front. And then we have what we already discussed, which is the pain that Holly feels over what she has witnessed. Why did that man try to hurt Henry? He was only trying to help. I don't know. Is this what made Henry bad? Very interesting question. The empathy for the villain and understanding of the origin and how a character got to that point. You know, to get back to the conversation we were having just at the beginning of the pod before we started going through all of the details, like, I guess another thing that pops into my mind is, you know, that these characters who do have this degree or ability to feel some sort of empathy toward Henry, Holly, 11, that maybe in navigating that balance that we're talking about earlier, where, like, it's like how much is there to appeal to and what does that look like and what is Henry or Vecna seeking, and I feel like it would be very interesting to see one of our characters bring that into the show and like really try to reach him and draw the humanity out of him.
Which and then 11 did at the end of season 4. She tried, it didn't succeed, but you know, try again, fry again. Like I think that I just have questions. I do have questions about this again. I'm like ongoing, like, what is the origin of Henry's Vecna-ness? Because you and I discussed this, and we talked about it a little bit in the stage adaptation spoiler section. And again, I don't want to get into it, but the stage show does have some like concrete answers for this. But what came first? You know, the music or the misery? Like it was, young Henry is threatened by a gun here. Like, he is an innocent scout boy trying to help a man he's threatened by a gun. Okay. He grapples with a man who's injured but bigger than him. That's scary. Okay. Knocks the man out with a rock. Okay. Keeps going with the rock in a way that I'm just sort of like, was this, you know, is this an innocent young boy here, or is this a young boy who already had a darkness inside of him before he even opened that case to whatever is inside of that case? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
definitely.
Is that? I mean, like, did the repeated bludgeoning with a rock seem like the actions of a scared boy, or the actions of a scared boy who has a tendency towards, as we saw later in the Hawkins, Indiana stretch, like torturing animals and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, no question. I mean, I think if you've been shot in the hand and then the person who did that to you is trying to load the gun again, the charge, the attempt to disarm, the picking up of the rock, the whacking of the head, I'm kind of like, okay, that all tracks, but I think your question is a very good one. Like, at a certain point, the defense shifts into maybe a relish or a lust for the violence, and that is notable. Now, like, you know, obviously we compare Vecna to a lot of different characters. Vecna and Will and Vecna and 11 most of all, and the parallels and the comps. You know, we've talked a lot over the many pods.
You want to talk about Vecna and Nancy? And how they both love to shoot first, ask questions later.
I mean, nobody loves to just shoot something as much as Nancy Wheeler. That's for sure.
Sorry.
the like, there but for the gray stuff that we've talked about many times with 11, like, we have seen 11 snap people's necks without hesitation. Like, the body count there and the extent of the violence is pretty supreme, but I think you could always in every moment justify it and say it was necessary in that way to escape that quickly or protect the people around her. And that, you know, have we had a moment where we're like, wait, does she like it? I don't think so, right? The time that we got that actually was with Kali in season 2, when she was like, you got to tap into the pain and the hate and the rage. And it's like, actually, no, we're kind of like, well, we've talked about that many times since, like, that's leading to a dark place.
I forgot to ask this when we talked about the Callie section earlier. When she says, I knew everything about Henry except for the fact that he was still alive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's your sense of the timeline?
So I bumped on that a little bit, and then where I landed was like, possible I'm missing something here, or there's something to be revealed still. What I'm assuming now is that, because in that episode, the Lost Sister episode of season 2, we learn that 8 and her gang are like collecting information on all aspects of Brenner's operation, you know, and they've got like newspaper clippings and files, and they've hunted people down and tortured them and learned what they can from each of them. So my assumption is that this does not point to some sort of awareness that she had while she was there, and more likely points to what she had kind of like unearthed through her detective orders. But maybe not, because is it possible that part of why she left was that she was like an earlier target of grooming? Could be.
Like, because if she's like, you have to access the anger and all of that sort of stuff, like, is that something that Henry /1 taught her?
It could be. Yeah, it definitely could be. That's entirely possible.
In the Abandoned Mine Shaft, just around the corner from Henry's origin story, Max and Holly find the old red light, floaty rock, Kate Bush void behind the caved-in wall, and we'll come back to that in the hospital section.
Yes.
Meanwhile, at the radio station, Robin, in one of, again, many, like, this figurine is this, or this thing stands in for this explanation moment. When are we going to use the bugles to explain something? We've already used boppers. I don't know. Robin decides to go with vinyl and demonstrates to Lucas and Mike how Holly and Max and Will could all be in the same place.
Yeah.
How did this work for you, and how did you feel about the fact that Robin, Kate Bush pull, obvious. The Clash pull makes me think that she's paying closer attention to Jonathan Will than I earlier would have expected.
Yeah.
And then the Tiffany pull, great guess for Holly, given her age and demo, but like still a stunning moment of clarity from Rockin' Robin about what Holly's favorite record might be. That aside,
yeah.
Well, any thoughts you have about that? But then also, how did this like demonstration work for you?
It's hit me like a Whitney Houston high note iconic, you
Very
know.
good.
Like,
Very good.
Robin is the best, giving Rockin' Robin this like musically rooted explanation when she's the DJ. I liked. By the way, I haven't said this yet, but the crew neck sweatshirts, the squawk sweatshirts that Dustin and Lucas are wearing.
Yeah. They are for sale. I don't know why you don't already have one.
So far, the red. I've seen the red one. Is the
want the blue one
for sale? I want. I do like. I like the red one a lot. As you know, it's not my color. Neither is blue or any other color, but red's definitely not. So I'm waiting for the blue one, and hopefully, once these episodes drop, it'll go up. But Lucas walked out, and then I was like, I need that. I love a crew neck, and I need that. Anyway, back to your actual question. Okay, so on the one hand, I think this is part of a Proud Stranger Things tradition. The flea and the acrobat. I'm going to fold a paper plate and punch through and explain something. Frankly, in a stretch of story where we're like, exotic matter, theoretical physics, you can freeze frame Brenner's notebooks and try to understand this if you want, but like maybe that's going to take you to a blah place, I don't know. Where like the show's ability to take these, to present us with actual science and complex ideas, but then present them in a way that we and certain characters in the story, who maybe aren't as scientifically inclined, can understand, is like an instinct and an impulse that I always like.
Yes.
So I thought their distinct records, their physical bodies, their minds, take the records out, lay them on top of each other, put the crate on to represent the prison, and then they're going to go back and they're going to awaken their bodies. Like, all of that I liked. To your point, though, about the musical choices, I think there's something, to that that's like a little bit of the show is on fast forward, like inside of itself in a way that it like is not, it didn't always used to be. And I think the explanation is probably like, she maybe knows what music a like 10-year-old girl in
Tiffany's
1987 would like.
Tiffany's a great guest for Holly. I just think it's like a little weird that like we've seen Holly listen to exactly one song and that's what Robin pulled. It's just like a little bit of a weird moment, but it's fine.
The melding of like what characters know and what the audience knows has been a little less sharp this season than in prior seasons.
Jonathan loves the Clash. I believe that. Does she know that Will used the Clash as his like anthem to keep alive in the Upside Down? I don't think that's, given that they're acting like they've never had a conversation before this season, I don't know why that would be true. Anyway, regardless, we are, groups are joining each other. We've got Hop and company. You already talked about this sort of Kali stuff. Anything else you want to say about the Kali Hop conversation? Or would you like to talk about Hop talking to Mike while he has his shirt off? Would you like a moment to talk about that? Do you regret already blowing the phrase stick man on Mr. Clark when you could use it for Hop?
Something clicked into place for me there about my lust for Jim Hopper as I watch him behave badly across all of these seasons. The other thing, in terms of how people look or what they're wearing, Mike's sweater in this stretch, it looked to me, the pattern on the sweater looked like the TARDIS with an Eye of Sauron inside of it, just on repeat.
Oh my god, I'll double check that. I did not clock it. I will look back and see if I
don't think it actually was that.
If we're
that
doing
was
Doctor Who meets Lord of the Rings, I would love that.
That would be great. That would be great for us. Let's see, what else? We talked about their argument already. I don't think I have anything else to add on that front. I guess just in general on the Kali 11 Hop Brenner Henry front, I guess this is just like, this is confirmation of what we had assumed, since we heard in season 4, like, it wasn't enough for him. He wanted to control me. He wanted he started a program, and what he said in season 4, like, the truth is, he did not just want to study me. He wanted more. He wanted to control. When Papa finally realized he could not control me, he tried to recreate me. He began a program, and soon others were born. You were born. So, like, we've been speculating on this for quite some time, and now it is definitive. The blood transfusions. I got plenty of comps from other stories, but when we saw Callie, like, running through the hall, room after room of pregnant women being infused, and in the experiments, we should note that failed, right? That's, again, like we kind of alluded to that earlier, that 11, as Callie says to her, is like the one perfect copy of Henrietta's power, so they'll seek her.
The blood bags with the number 8 on them, that's not what we want. We want blood bags with 11 on it. Yeah,
it's not working. It reminded me of the Battlestar, this stretch where the Starbuck is back on Caprica and ends up in this, like, birth den. Like, it's always so horrifying to see something like that, obviously. But yeah, this is, I think this is, like, where we thought this was heading for some time since season 4, and speculated on other possible paths, but that always seemed like the most likely. So I guess Kay, understanding what Kay is trying to do, that's explained now. It does not, I will be honest, compel me toward Kay at all. I still have no emotional response to that character or plot line, and think that remains like a pretty weak point of seasons 4 and 5. Over the Brenners especially, it's like, because you think of how they started, like, the Duffers started with this, like, the Montauk stuff, and the idea of the experiments on the kids. That was like what one of the core things they wanted to explore most, and, like, with Papa and Elle, like, that was so good across 4 seasons. And the Sullivan Kay, like, I mean, Owens was good. I thought
Owens was really good.
I
think Brenner and Owens are super good, and Sullivan and Kay have been
just
pretty weak.
Yeah, it just hasn't worked.
Okay. Let's see. I think we should zip some of this Will the Builder stuff and come back to it in the next episode.
Yeah.
But I want to really quickly say that, like, Will built the tunnels in his sleep stuff. I think it's just, like, the Duffers mentioned some season 2 stuff that they abandoned that they wanted to come back to here. And, like, I didn't go back and check, but that footage of him, like, sleeping with his eyes zooming around, was that footage we had seen before in season 2?
I don't think so. And this felt to me like a I have been studying at your knee moment for me, because the thing I looked at was his hair. And so I was like, that hair, his hair feels to me in the flash of him sleeping like not his season 2 hair. And so it felt to me like something they had filmed anew for this purpose.
Oh, really? That to
me, like, shorter bangs.
That looked to me like Noah Schnapp and not like a digitally de-aged face. But maybe that's easier to do if he's just
don't
still
have open eyes. And
yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I thought that the only thing I'll say about this here is just I thought that this was an interesting moment of kind of Vecna reclaiming some control of the state of power, because he's like I think that just I gotta be honest, the, like, you built the tunnels, I was like, is this supposed to land with, like, a massive impact for me? It, like, kind of didn't.
I'm just wondering if that could come into play somehow.
Mm-hmm.
If he built
for sure.
them, can he destroy them? Is there a reason that he would need to?
For sure. And all of that, the hive mind connection, reminding us about the burning, the particles, who has them in them, how do we expel them? All of that feels very key for where we've been and where we're heading. I thought that just right here, like, the kind of okay, you powered up and everybody's like, fuck yeah, but I have known that you could siphon my power back then, and that's part of how I used you as a tool, was just an interesting way to tip the scale, for Vecna to try to tip the scales back to him.
Yeah, and I think, like, my spy, my builder, thinking about, like, what he had, what Billy was up to in season 3, all that sort of stuff. Okay, back in the cabin, we don't need to linger on this. Like, honestly, I do want to get to, like, the hospital stuff, but as you alluded to, it actually, frankly, deeply irritated me.
Tell me.
To have Jim Hopper explain to Joyce what it was like to be a parent. Joyce seemed to receive it well, so, like, this is a me issue and not a Joyce issue, but, like, Joyce expressing her doubts about, like, first I coddled him, then I pushed him, and both seem to be wrong. I don't know, everything is wrong that I do. Like, that's all very human and natural to feel. I was just, like, watching, and I was like, Joyce raised an entire Jonathan Byers in Will she has had so much more experience being a parent than Hopper. So Hopper being like, that's the thing about being a parent to Joyce. I was like, what are you talking about, Jim? Your track record as a dad is not one that I would look up to. So this is like a thing that I bumped on that I acknowledge might just be a me issue. But I was just like, this was really bizarre to me. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
I obviously this is not the first moment where like their respective experiences are shared with each other to kind of help one of them break through, and then maybe one of them pushes forward and one of them slides back. But I thought that the look on Hop's face as Joyce was saying, like, I started thinking that maybe all this time I've been trying so hard to protect him, I've really just been holding him back. Like the way that he's clocking and kind of having to acknowledge his own behavior there, and then is able to say basically like it made me think a little bit the constant reminder part, like that every choice you've made has been wrong, with a smile on his face, was like she was actually providing an insight to him in that moment, and then because of that he was able to like almost tap into a little bit of the season 3 letter, like remember the pain is good. It means you're out of that cave idea of like, if things are going wrong and you're suffering, like the only way that you can lament mistakes you've made with somebody is if you had that person in your life and you got to share something with them for however long you shared it with them. So I did not bump on it.
That's
but
a nice reading. I like your reading. I'll rewatch it with that reading in mind. I was just like, what do you mean the thing about parenting is? Anyway, we get the Mike and Lemon conversation, which you and I have already talked about.
Lie.
Can we talk about the escape from Hawkins Memorial Hospital?
I would love to.
Okay. HMH. I mentioned this before. I got this slightly wrong. I just want to correct my own record and say Hawkins Memorial Hospital is the same logo of the Haddonfield Memorial Hospital in the Halloween movies. So just correcting my own record, I sort of bungled that illusion earlier. But Robin and Lucas show up to rescue Max. Robin takes a side quest to welcome Vicky onto Team Monsters Do Exist. How did you feel about this whole Robin, you're a drug addict side plot moment that we have here?
So I found myself like worried that I was about to become very impatient because we're like, this is just simply not what is happening. I think because we did not spend long on it, it actually was not only okay, but it felt right to me that Vicky, who has had no exposure to all of this, I mean, frankly, the things that Robin cites is like the ground split in two and we're under military quarantine, but like, by that logic, every single person in Hawkins should be like, what the fuck is going on here?
They should already. What I really want is someone to have the Oz from Buffy season 2 reaction of like, that makes a lot of things make a lot of sense, actually.
Yes. Totally. Totally. I think like we've talked about that. We talked about this in the last couple pods, and there were many examples of that in these 2 episodes as well, where like characters who have no reason to doubt something, Max with Holly or Jonathan saying this is increasingly unlikely, like you guys have seen all of the shit, there's no reason for you to doubt this at all. Vicky being like, oh my god, and I actually thought just the performance was so tender of like, what you're seeing on my face is anger, but mixed with concern. Because I am worried about you. I felt right, and then she very quickly, because the demo dogs attacked the hospital en masse, is like, oh shit, okay, you were right.
I did think the moment that Vicky was like, do these things speak English, then this doesn't need to be a private conversation, was like not only extremely useful, but really funny. So great job, Vicky. Welcome to the team.
It was comedic, but like, are we sure? How do we know they don't speak English?
You know what? Great question.
How did we know that? I was like, what do you mean? How do we know that?
The lights flicker. Karen Wheeler gets involved.
Yep. No one checks on Ted. Just we'll say
no one gives a shit about Ted.
No one fucking checks on Ted.
And then we get, something that was in the trailers that I've been anticipating, which is like Lucas has Max's like, passed out body in his arms and is running through the hospitals, and he and Vicky are like cowering in the laundry room, and the demo dogs are there. Like, this is all in the trailer. I've been anticipating this.
Yeah.
With love and respect.
Yeah.
This fucking sucked. Part of this. Okay.
Tell me.
Chase to the hospital, fine, great.
Yeah.
Lucas carrying Max's body around, fine, great. Karen developing an instinct for grabbing an oxygen tank and putting it in a dryer and having sort of like a more scientific mind about these, fine, sure, okay. When they're cowering in the laundry room after the Demodogs have been like keenly hunting them through the hospital, and the Demodogs get instantly stupid and are just sniffing around for a really long time while Kate Bush is playing out on the boombox, and they're all whispering audibly to each other, and Robin's like, you have to turn it off. And Lucas is like, I can't. And we all at home are like, Max almost made it before and the music stopped, so we need the music to keep going. We understand. But the Demodogs are fucking right there.
Yeah.
Can't find the 3 humans who are honestly not even really concealed. I just thought this was like really poorly done. The Duffers have mentioned that they love the velociraptors in the kitchen scene in Jurassic Park. They already did it once in season 3 in the mall.
Yep.
I like it too. I'm down with it whenever we want to allude to it. The way that they timed this out just didn't work. Like, the Demodogs were just like got really dumb and were just wandering around for a while.
Yeah.
While meanwhile, Max and Holly are like not running ever. They're meandering around the void. After the last time Max didn't run when the window opened up for her and then it closed before she got there. The lack of hustle for Max and Holly was really pissing me off. And so I was just like, I did enjoy the Max and Holly conversation, and we can talk about that a little bit in a second if you want to, but I was very frustrated how sloppy this Demodog hunt and Max and Holly in the void felt like to me, especially since we're invoking one of the best things that Stranger Things has ever done, which is Max and Dear Billy. You know what I mean? If we're going to run it back, we need to run it back better. I seem to be the only one agitated by this. Mallory Rubin, how did you feel about this?
I agree on the, we've already said this episode, I thought that pausing to be like, you can't come with me and now we need to talk about why, was really confusing. And if that conversation had happened earlier, they would not have had to pause and have that conversation there.
Right.
And so then maybe that would have changed how we got the really beautiful and emotional stuff that came after, which I did like, but I did bump quite significantly on at the moment, the crucial moment of escape, Max being like, wait, no, not only like you can't come, but like, and also, what if the portal hadn't opened after that conversation? Was she gonna go help her?
And she's like, bye. Holly being like, I don't have a boyfriend was like really funny and cute the way she said it. I don't even know Kate Bush, like all this, I don't have a Kate, like all this sort of stuff like that. I thought it was really good. Max suddenly being like, I didn't need the music. I was like, where did this conclusion come from? And also, the music is still here. Like, if he had shut the stereo off, and she could still see him, and then she had that revelation of like, I didn't need the music, I just needed him, and you don't need the music, you just need a constant if you're a Lost fan, or a totem if you're an Inception fan, something here that is also there. It's your Holly the heroic thing, let's have this conversation. But her being like, I don't need the music, I'm like, based on what? The music's playing. Like, what are you talking about? Is the lie you're spinning to Holly so that you can like feel good about leaving her here? Like, what's happening?
I think in both the hospital sequence and the Max Holly sequence, it's consistent in its strength and its flaw, and that is really maybe amplified in these sequences, but a little bit of a piece with the other parts of the season so far. In the stretches that it hasn't worked as well for us, where I think there is an emotional truth that is not only like compelling or potentially effective, but really gripping for us as people who love the characters. Like Lucas refusing to turn the music off because he's, from his perspective in that moment, with a demo drooling above his head, like, the only thing that matters to me in this world is keeping this going so that I can try to bring her back. She's coming back. That hits us in a spot that, like,
for sure,
is there for a reason. When in theory, the emotional truth behind Max's moment of clarity is, it could be equally forceful, where it's like, she says something to Holly about like, and I felt it like here in my hands, and I felt it here, right? And the idea that like you think in a story in a world where the questions of like the how and the what and the when and the why, that you, just as she ends up saying to Holly, and in a different version, like what Robin and Will went through.
I had it in me all along.
I had it in me.
Sure.
I had it in me all along, and we had it in our relationship, where that really lands beautifully. So those aspects of it, I don't bump on. But I think to your point, we are distracted from embracing that by the like botched choreography and storyboarding, which is disappointing. I think taking a big swing on theme and emotion and missing is like actually a little bit less disappointing than this, which, and I think this, I was a little more gripped by this, and I was like, oh yeah, let's go. And then now, like, listening to you, I'm like, yeah, I did think that with the again, Max waiting till that moment, and with the demos in particular, it made me think a little bit of like when they get distracted by the laundry room and like the prison in season 4. But yeah, I was like, wait, I don't know, like, why are they not eating them alive?
Yeah.
I actually like don't. I don't understand that, and that didn't make sense.
Good reason for it.
Yeah, that was very strange.
Unless, to your point, Eleven's like field of protection around Max,
or they don't speak English, so they couldn't understand. It's time to run up that hill. Yeah.
But now we're just writing fan fiction for the show. I just think this is a real. I love the way you put that, though. I thought this was a real failure of like logic and execution inside of. I care almost more than anything. I care about Lucas's devotion to Max and Max's journey home. Those are so important to me, and I felt like they just kind of whiffed it a little bit. I mean, I'm still very like, run, Max, run, like get home, you know, and I still think Caleb's performance of that emotion works. But yeah, I was bummed out by this. I was really looking forward to it. It didn't work for me, so.
Yeah, it's I thought that the Holly, we both loved the, again, this is a much newer thing for us to care about, but we both really loved the Holly Mike scene earlier in the season. And so that part of it, you know, was really, really great. I was like, man, Mike Wheeler. And he's just like navigating that conversation with Elle in such a mature fashion. I'm like, man, again, Mike really on the rise in season 5. So that's been fun and cool. And I, you know, on the I don't know, Kate Bush, or I don't have a boyfriend front, I felt that got me too, because I felt like we often, our formative experience with the party is that they felt like they were on the outside of fitting in, of being a part of things. And I like having moments like this where other people, Holly or someone else, will look at them and be like, I don't have what you have.
The thing that I really liked about that is that, like, I don't know Kate Bush, I don't have a boyfriend. That's very much like I'm too young to understand these connections that you have. Yeah. Having that come right on the heels of them trying to get through the rock wall, and Holly can get through because she's littler, she's small. Yeah. And it's like one of those things where it's like, it's easier for younger, more you know, flexible minds to get home, but has Max gotten too old to be able to travel back down this path that she was once able to? And I really liked that. I don't know if that was their intention, but I just like really liked that sort of like Max struggling to get through, Holly having to pull her, the younger girl having to pull her through. As she pulled her through, like, her depression, we'll just sit here and wait to get rescued by 11, like, moment in the cave, like, and then the Max taking on the leadership role again, and the older, and like, you can do this, and we'll see how right Max is and all of that, because as far as we know, Holly is hooked up to a goop wall, so like, what is she returning to?
Yeah, that was interesting too, like, you know, make your way back to the Wheeler house and we'll find you there. And it's like, well, we'll see what that ends up looking like. But yeah, I love what you're saying, because it also makes us think about like, okay, well, again, so much of the season is oriented around November 6th, the day it started, the day it's going to end. Now, I'll put a pin in this until next pod, but like, I have some questions about, given the wormhole, the Upside Down is actually like a wormhole reveal about what it means to be frozen in time in 83, and what that,
in terms of when it was created,
which tells me that's when it was created. But then I'm like,
I agree.
What about the earlier moments, the gates open? We could talk about that, and like, how did the notebooks, which are full, like, are they frozen in time? It indicates an awareness of it. Anyway, we'll talk about that maybe next pod. But why did I mention that? I don't even remember. The idea that Henry is like, I picked Will when he was that age originally, and now I'm picking Holly and Derek and all these kids when they're that age, and he sees that, as he told Will, my perfect vessels, they're weak, as like something he can take advantage of and exploit. So for that to be an edge for Holly and her, not just, the physical ability to get through the hole, but maybe the fresh eyes through which she looks at all of this.
Tourist.
I love that. I loved the metal detectorist and the tourist. Like that was a good way too to kind of, I think, it's connected to what we talked about earlier, like basically justify the
I thought that was like
story on Holly's shoulders.
A nimble moment of like, oh, Holly just found this and Max has been here for 20 months and she didn't find it. I thought that was like a really nimble way to explain that.
And then on the dimension door front, the payoff of like, I mean, yes, we did see the literal doors for the memory, but here, this felt like the real dimension door payoff of like her portal opens and she can see where her body is, and like, again, very of a piece with what we've seen with other characters this season so far and in general across the show, this idea that like she didn't suddenly literally become a cleric who was like, but she channeled what was inside of her, and the idea that it was always there, but also Max helped her embrace it, feels very true to the spirit of the show. So I thought that this sequence recovered nicely in that final that final exchange between Holly and Max, which I was very touched by, but some odd mechanics to get us there, no question.
Okay, last thing I want to say before we get to our sort of stage show script reader corner, which we can just sort of blow through really quickly, is just to let the Byler fandom, we hear you Mike and Will shippers, I want to check in on this next episode. But if you have thoughts about it, hobbitsanddragons@gmail.com. But that is something we will talk about next time. So now is your spoiler warning. We're about to talk about stuff that happens in Stranger Things, The First Shadow. Once again, a show we think everyone should have access to, but they don't. Continues to mystify, but it will inform some things we saw in this episode, so we want to talk about it. But if you don't want to hear anything about it, you can vamoose, and we will see you for episode 7 a little later. So, okay. Are you still here?
Goodbye.
You sure? You sure you want to hear this? Okay, here we go. Just cave stuff, right? Okay, so basically, as we continue to grapple with like what's canon, what's not, it's important to remember that this was staged first, I believe, in London's West End before it came to Broadway. And the version that was on the West End is different than the version that showed up on Broadway. So they were refining canon even between the stage show presentations in London and then in New York. Once again, it's not what I would have done with my story, but this is what they decided to do. But here's a description that I pulled from a Reddit board. So I'm going to quote it directly. If you have seen the stage show and you disagree with me, hobbitsanddragons@gmail.com. So they don't show in the stage show what happened to Henry in the cave, because this like whole scientist with a case thing, I was like, I don't remember reading about this on the stage show. But his mom claims he was missing for 12 hours that day. The inferred events are that Henry came across the Russian spy hiding in the cave. Is that the scientist? He didn't sound Russian, but I don't know. Became infected by the stolen mind flayer particles, presumably what's in the case, which were extracted from Brenner's father, and killed the spy, the scientist, leaving behind the empty container and Henry's spyglass. The closest visual we get is on a wall of television screens that interface with Henry through a brain monitoring device. Henry repressed the memory, and Brenner tried to coax it out of him. The screen shows visuals of Dimension X, which is not the Upside Down, but maybe the place that Vecna Henry 1 lands when Elle sends it through the wall. So to continue this Reddit message, implying but not confirming that Henry physically went here.
Okay.
It is exactly like the Target commercial with Ted Wheeler when Ted walks away.
You have my attention. It's Godfather 3 P. You pulled me back in.
When Ted walks away from the wall of televisions and Target, they changed to a view of the Mind Flayer. Now, in the Broadway version, they completely changed the scene. They actually bring Brenner's father into the room in a wheelchair. At first, he appears cooked like James' mom, Terry, but then the Mind Flayer starts speaking through him to Henry, and at one point, after they touch hands, a physical portal to Dimension X opens up in the room. A Demogorgon even reaches through and knocks Brenner's father to the ground. The portal closes when they rip the brain monitor off Henry's head. So we never see on the stage that he killed a scientist with a rock and opened a case, but it seems to connect with vaguely this story of a Russian spy with stolen particles extracted from Brenner's father that Henry then touched, and then that sent him to Dimension X, where he was missing, like Will was missing when he was younger. But my understanding of the stage show was that before he opened the case and went to Dimension X, he was just a normal boy. But this is my question. The bashing of the head and the rock comes before the opening of the case. So again, was the darkness always lurking inside of Henry in some way and then just bloomed under the influence of the Mind Flayer in Dimension X? Or are we meant to view that rock bludgeoning as like a normal defense mechanism and not read that much into it? I don't have the answer, but that's the information.
Okay, let me say a thing I like, and then let me repeat, not for the first time in season 5, and certainly not for the last time, something I don't like. I kind of like the potential for that super serum.
All right, so we got less than a minute of recording left here. It doesn't look like we're going to find an airport before this recording cuts off. So what we'll do is next time we'll just start from the farthest airport, or the nearest airport to where we are right now. We're on Great Abaco, or whatever the island's called, of the Bahamas. That's where we'll start next time. That will probably be next Friday. Well, actually, we'll see. Theoretically, could be New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, but could be next Friday as well. Not that anyone really watches this, but just FYI. So, signing out from over the Bahamas, Great Abaco Island. That's where around we'll start next time.